Hi, my name's Frank Lloyd, and I've been a professional stuntman for over 20 years. One thing that I've learned after all that is before I do anything athletic, I stretch. So do athletes, and today, we're going to apply it to horses.
Horses are driven by food, fear, and reproduction. Sorry about that last one, pal. Are you still upset about that? This is a trick. My horse stretching moves are basically a series of tricks. The horses like it because it feels good, so they pick up the moves quickly. Remember, the geldings will drop, and they'll all lick their lips. Totally normal, signs that they like it. In this video, we're going to teach a trained horse, Bob here, so he can show you the total range of motion you can achieve, and then we're going to go inside the barn and teach a new horse who's never been stretched before. That way you can see what to do with yours. Remember, safety first, patience is the key. Let's go stretch some horses. You coming?
This video is directed towards healthy horses and healthy people. You know your horse and yourself and are the best judge for its learning capabilities and yours. There is a lot of information to be learned on this video. It is a two-step process to attain a horse's maximum range of motion. Please watch this video beginning to end at least 5 times before you start step 1. While you're training your horse to stretch, only give him carrots while he is stretching. This lets his brain prepare mentally for it, and you will get him trained much faster. Strange as it sounds, many horses don't know what a carrot is. If you have one like this, separate him from the herd, put him in his own stall, and give him carrots dipped in a little molasses, then his favorite grain. After a few days, wean him off the grain and then the molasses. After he is well into liking carrots, he is ready to stretch. You will notice that horses in general have better range of motion on their left side. This could be attributed to horse racing, or roping, or the same reason why most people are right-handed. Nobody knows. By horse stretching, you will be equalizing both sides' range of motion. This is what I call a three-legged balance to aid in the stretching. This is something your horse will get good at. By the way, in our horse range of motion test, we increased the new horse's stride by almost 6 inches after he'd been trained. When I stretch a trained horse, I use 2, maybe 3 long carrots. Some people think I'm cheap, but there's a reason for it. A trained horse should be paying attention to me and what I am doing. When I look at a horse, I know that their balance is in their head and neck, their turning capabilities is in their front end, their power comes from their back end, and what ties it all together is their back. These stretching moves will stretch all these muscle groups. Horses like repetition. I always start on the right side of the horse's neck. Then I go to the left side. Then I go between their legs. This, of course, does their neck, their shoulders, and their low back. When I do their front legs, I don't really do it in a set routine. Sometimes I do the left side, sometimes I do the right side. I want to mix it up a little bit so the horse won't second guess me. After a horse has completed step 2, they'll start thinking ahead. This is something you kind of want to keep them out of, so mix it up a little bit so they're listening to your cues. Notice how here I just sort of guide him down. I don't pull him. He knows what I want him to do. Everything I do is casual and very easy. I guide him back, I put my hand above his knee, and he knows his cue to go down. I hold him for a couple of seconds. Lots of praise. I recommend a rope halter and a short lead line so as not to entangle his feet. As well, I give a gentle jiggle on the rope to reaffirm his need to stand still. When horse stretching, you need to become in tune with how limber your horse is and what their range of motion is. Then, you can gradually increase it. Oh, by the way, if you bring 4 carrots and not 3, you might forget it, but they sure won't. Remember, you spent a lot of time teaching them to reach for and look for carrots. I bring the leg straight out the back end. This loosens up the hip. And I guide it down, and this loosens up the low back and hip, the butt muscles, and I go straight out the back. When I'm through stretching a horse, I back him up 20 or 30 feet. Training horses to stretch is a two-step process. You can break step one into three parts: their neck, their front end, and their back end. I stand him in a corner, I lean against him just behind his shoulder, I give him a little bit of my body pressure, and I guide his head back. Really, I'm not going for range of motion here, as much as I am just going for him to learn to reach for the carrot and to stand still. This, of course, loosens up his neck. A lot of praise. And now we'll do the other side. You can't really do it too much. 2 or 3 times on each side is good for a step one horse. Once again, I back him into a corner so he learns to stand when I put him, stand behind his shoulder, put a little bit of body weight against him, and I guide his head back. He's going to learn to stand still and stretch his own neck. Lots of praise. Now I'm going to put him in the corner and teach him to go between his legs. It's awkward for horses. Have a lot of patience. This move will eventually loosen up his low back, his shoulders, and of course his neck. Most horses put their legs too far together, so you'll teach them to stand with their legs a little more spread apart, just like I did, and then guide him through. I lead it down with my left hand, then I feed it into my right hand. He's learning to reach and stretch for the carrot. Now we're ready for part 2 of step 1, their front end. For this, I highly recommend a partner, an assistant, someone to be feeding him carrots the minute you pick up his foot. In this horse's case, we're not going to feed him carrots just so you can see how he reacts to it. I grab his foot, I check his flex, and I grab the outside of his foot. I balance my body weight in this particular situation on my knees. I'm far enough away from the horse to where if anything were to happen, I would be safe. And really what he would normally do is snap his leg down. If he does this, I give it to him. There it goes. That's okay. We'll just give you a little loving. We'll set you again. And we'll do it one more time. The flex, move the foot, and mainly I want to get him used to me picking his leg up and him standing still while I move it around. My partner would normally be feeding him bunches and bunches of carrots right now. That way he's totally engrossed in food and associating it with a good thing. Let's see how he deals with this. That's a little bit awkward for him. But he likes it. See him licking his lips? That's an important note. And it's like Bob, eventually this horse will drop. Now we're going to do his other side. I'm going to back him into the corner so he's used to me getting him set. And I'm going to pick up his foot, check his flex. First couple times you do it, you really just want to get him used to you touching him. Pull the foot up, twist the hoof, and I check the range of motion in the knee and the shoulder. Once again, I pull his leg forward very gently, holding both sides of his hoof, and I guide it left and right a little bit, and mainly up and down. That way he's used to this movement. Now I put my hand just above his knee and I guide him back. Once again, like on the other side, it's scary for him because you have their balance in your control. He doesn't normally have his front leg up like this, either A, near humans, or B, pulled back. But he's okay with it. He just has to get used to it, and he's going to check us out here. Now we're going to move on to the back end. I take my hand, I slide it all the way down from the back and just inside the leg. I pick up the back leg. Oh, he's interested in carrots. The good thing about carrots is he's really interested in carrots. The bad thing about it is he don't even know I'm picking up his leg. I pick it up. I put my left hand, when I'm on his back right side, underneath his foot with my fingers facing forward. I put it on my left hip, as you can see here. I pull that out a little bit just to get a little hip motion. Let him get comfortable with what I'm going to do. Of course, my partner's feeding him carrots at all times. Then I guide his leg down just a little bit, holding the outside of his hoof. And then I get a little bit of range of motion here. Now we're going to go straight out the back. I'm not going for range of motion here. I'm going so the horse will get used to me doing this kind of move with his legs. I hold my right arm inside his leg so that if he were to wind back, he would pull my arm back with me, and I never have my face in front of him dangerously. Here we go. I grab my hands, left hand underneath, facing forward, to interlock my fingers and pick him up. I make him hold his body weight. Now I'm guiding him back. Notice how I keep my head away, I keep my knee away, and my hand back. And I don't have to go any major range of motion here. I'm just letting him get used to me doing this motion to him. Once again, my partner is feeding him multiple carrots. I reverse my moves now. I put my right hand underneath his back left leg or foot, and I have my fingers face him forward, and I intertwine my fingers, and I pick him up and put it on my hip. Now I'm going to do a little move on the hip just to see how much range of motion I can get, and this is normal. Because remember, I've got their balance in my hands. Now I change my hand position, I go to the outside of his hoof, and I guide it down. Then I pull it up gradually. Usually this time they yank their leg away a little bit. Just give it to him. It's not a big fight. He seems to be more interested in carrots. Long carrots, patience, and affection are your tools. When you're horse stretching, time should not be an issue. The beginning of the training process is the most crucial. Your horse is not really sure what you and he are doing. As he realizes this feels good, it is important to reinforce him with praise. Some horses take longer than others. Remember, your horse is learning his balance in unusual positions. Be patient and remember, they are learning to do the heavy work. This is where they are learning the three-legged balance I referred to earlier. As well, notice how I'm standing. I'm making sure that my back is safe, my body is safe, and while they're learning the first steps, I take it easy. If in doubt, if there's any kind of a pull, I just let it go, let them have it, and restart the move again. People stretch, they know their limits, and take it easy. It should be the same with your horse. You are using a horse's basic sense of balance to manipulate them into unusual positions. Younger horses usually reach their maximum range of motion faster. This paint's about 3.5 years old. Notice how my partner is feeding him carrots continually as I'm stretching him out the back end. Throughout the training process of doing a young new horse, remember, carrots as many as he wants as you're stretching him. When I teach a horse to stretch, I put him in a stall where there's no neighbors. That way there's no one bothering us and his attention is completely on me. After you've completed step 1 15 to 20 times, your horse should be comfortable with the basic stretching moves and you should have an idea of what his range of motion is. If you feel this is right, you are ready to move on to step 2. This is where I say, do as I say, not as I do. As you begin step 2, you should be in the center of a round pen or away from the edge of an arena. This is so nothing will appear suddenly and scare your horse. For the camera videotaping, we are standing near the edge of an arena and will rotate Pete for you to see as much as possible. But for you, once you set your horse, you and your assistant need to keep your horse in his basic set position and you move around him like I did with Bob. This will get your horse to stand still for you while horse stretching. Step 2 combines everything that you did on step 1 and just makes it a little bit easier for you and has the horse do a little more of the work. His range of motion has gone past my body, so I'm restricting it. Now we're going to change into the move of facing him and guiding his head back along his body while I grab his tail. Pulling it towards the rear end will enable him to A, get used to us pulling on it, and B, later we'll get even more range of motion. We'll both be pulling from each end towards the middle. Of course, we reacquaint him with it by standing next to him behind his shoulder and do the normal way we did it in step 1, guiding his head back, and now we switch it immediately and give him a guide back with the opposite hand and grab his tail with my left arm, tap him, give him a cue. He's going to learn that one, and that way we'll get more range of motion as we pull his head towards his rear end. Now we're going to put his head between his legs. He knows it. I'm going to give him a cue. He's going to go down. Here's the cue. Really big one, huh? If you want to teach your horse to bow, you can pick another spot on his body and he'll learn that as a cue. Remember, sometimes you have to pick up their leg. You got to train them to get used to that. Tap him in the side, give him that cue, and guide his head back and down. He wants to keep his feet flat on the ground. That move loosens up his low back, his butt, his neck, his shoulders, and his front legs. Now we're ready to start to the front end. He's been through the moves at least 15 to 20 times through step 1. He knows what I'm going to do. So I do everything a little more brisk, but still a little more understanding of the fact that he's new to it. I ask for as much as I can from the knee, from the foot. I'm going to go a little bit higher. My range of motion is increased during step 1's 15 to 20 times. I'm going to turn around. I'm going to grab his just underneath his shoulder with my right hand and guide him back with my left hand on his hoof. My assistant was feeding him carrots the whole way down. Let's watch it again. See the carrots going in the horse's mouth? Big trick there. He's not afraid of the moves. He's actually kind of enjoying them. That was great. That was his first time down. Front left now. I'm going to pick up his foot. My assistant's giving him carrots the whole time. I check his range. Twist the hoof. See how the knee works. Now we're going to do the shoulder and the leg. We go left and right for the shoulder. There we go. Turn around. Guide his foot down, holding it with my right hand and just underneath his shoulder with my left hand. My assistant's feeding him a carrot. Yes. Perfect. See that one more time. That works his shoulder. Everything's loose. Better range of motion. I'm going to put the hoof, my right hand, just above his knee, my left hand. My assistant's giving him carrots. Bingo. Now we're ready to do the final part of step 2, the back end. I let the horse know I'm coming by running my hand down from his back. Pick up his foot, same way I taught you in step 1, where my right hand is underneath the bottom of his foot or horseshoe, with my fingers facing forward. I ask a little more from the hip. We've done this at least 15 to 20 times, so he knows what I'm asking him. I take the pressure off that, change my hand position, and let him just extend it out a little bit. Let him give it to me. And once he's given it to me, I straighten it out a bit, and I push it back. That's normal for horses. Be aware of that, because it's just a natural reflex for them. Not like they're being mean or vicious. They just, they like control their limbs. So, there we go. We stick it out the back. Got a good range of motion coming on. Maybe I should watch this horse. Now we'll do the other side. Same idea. We let him know we're coming. We pick it up. Now it's the left hand underneath the right foot. I interlock my fingers. I hold it against me. I pull it in and out from the hip. I let it go. I grab the outside of it with my hands. Same exact position I'd be on the front legs. I push it out the back end. That's great. See how far we can go. Remember the one thing we have to do after that? That's right. We gotta back them up, about 20 or 30 feet. As you approach the 15th to 20th repetition of step 2, you should have your routine down and your horse should know exactly what you want him to do. I slowly wean the horse off carrots, except the neck moves. Horses will normally get too excited if you give them carrots constantly. Here's some hints. If your horse starts rolling up on his toes, this is a bad habit. The way you stop this is you spread his legs wider and draw the carrot closer to the ground. Not as far, and when he keeps his feet flat, later you can ask him for more range of motion. If you lift the horse's front leg too high, he will sit back. Lower it and do that stretching move again, just not as high and not as long. If you're stretching the horse's back end and he has an injury you are not aware of, or if you hurry or push for maximum range of motion too fast, you can give your horse a muscle cramp. If you give your horse a muscle cramp, stretch them again, just not as far and longer. Back him up at least 20 feet and walk him around a minute or two. It doesn't happen often. I've only seen about 3 muscle cramps in over 4,000 horses. If you find that holding the horse by underneath his foot is a little too hard on your hand, or there's nails sticking out of his shoes, you can use one glove, the underneath side that's under the bottom of the shoe. I recommend only one due to the fact that you could get hung up if the horse were to be scared by something. When you're working around horses and their feet, I recommend a good thick boot. In order to show you how a horse reacts to these horse stretching moves without training or carrots, I am going to stretch a 20-year-old rope horse that has never been stretched before. Please do not attempt this. I'm not going to do any neck stretches since he has not been trained. He would only turn circles around me. This shot has no cuts in it, so you can see, beginning to end, how a horse reacts. Notice how many times he licks his lips. Your sign that he likes it. As you'll notice here, I'm picking up his front left leg, and when he starts to sit back, I lower it. As I lower it and then raise it again, I'm actually increasing his range of motion. I repeat it a few times, and if he were to pull it away from me, I would give it to him. There we go. I'm going to pull him back and stand in a little different position because he's not prepared for this. I don't want to get stepped on. Just trying to check his range of motion and give him a little more. There he goes. That's a lick lipping. We're going to reset him for the camera. And because he's not a trained horse, I don't have any particular order to go in. I'm going to just do his back end. I start at his back and I go down his leg. And I wait until he gives it to me. I put my right hand underneath his left rear leg as I did earlier in the training sessions, and I have my fingers facing forward. I interlock my fingers. I'm very aware of the way he's standing, his body position, and his energy. If he were to fight, I would give it to him, but he's pretty relaxed with it, so I'll check his hip out. As he gives me his leg, I just let it stretch out. And if he wants it, I give it to him, just like with the new horses. We'll do it again, and I'll push him out, straight out the back. And he's licking his lips. They all like it. I think you recognize most of these moves. I stand safely back. I go to the left and right. I'll draw him back. Stand with that weird position so I don't get stepped on. That's a good horse. Once again, I do all the moves you've been trained to do, and just a little more safe due to the fact that this horse has never had this done to him before. I fight him on almost nothing. It's all a give and take. I'm aware of my back, and I'm aware of his body. If he wants it, he gets it. We calm him, we make him feel like it's a good day, and I'll bring him out the back. If you feel uncomfortable with any of these moves, please refrain from doing them. We teach horses, teenagers, and adults at the Homestretch Ranch. We start you on a trained horse, then move you on to yours. We work with you one-on-one to make it easy.